Okay, it's turn 50. In any game of Dominions, there are big turns and small turns, and the first turn of a war is usually a pretty dramatic thing. So let us make sense of this map that we are seeing. First thing first. At the beginning of this turn, GC cast Earthblood Deepwell. If nothing else happened this turn, then this would have brought him up to 60 gems per turn worth of gem gens, which would have, if given time, catapulted him into a really, really strong position. 20 fire, 20 earth, 20 death a turn is quite the budget boost. However, as part of our plan attempt, there was both the conventional attack on Shinuyama, and there was also the assassination of his god. And I think I'm going to do a narrative write-up on this and post it in a little while, because it's a bit of a dramatic moment when you think. So we launched a series of mine hunts against Goblin Tokugawa. The first one hit and was resisted, so he passed his magic resistance check. I think he would have had MR 17 against our penetration of it's 11, 12, 13, 14, I think. So this is not surprising. And then we have 15 on our other guys. Our Astral 5 Mage, who has a few of the extra paths and lots of booster items, hit Goblin Tokugawa with Soul Slay and was successful, which meant all the remaining hits hit no enemy commander in the province. We've confirmed that Goblin Tokugawa must have been holding up both Eternal Pyre and Well of Misery, because those are both now down. Then there was the conventional offensive. So we rolled in and we staged a series of battles against the Shinuyamans, most of which were without resistance. So, for example, we landed in Faldenberg without resistance, in New Spring without resistance, Nofia, where his god was, without resistance. Here in Gentle Woods, all it was the Jade Sorceresses that he'd been recruiting in the area, and they managed to kill one of our Formless Spawn with magic before they all died, them and their PD. Good old Helpful Wombat here, and his friend, I want to watch this one because these are funny, and his good mate, the Vastness rather, came to this province and did exactly what I'd expect. I had the Wombat, the flying jellyfish guy, cast a couple of buff spells and then started throwing Astral Magic, but Vastness killed most of them before they even arrived through a combination of like Mind Hunts and all that sort of stuff. You can see the PD commander has at this point been Mind Blasted multiple times. He's down to 6 HP. He's dead. And then when our Vastness runs out of ammo, it just blinks forward, because it has instant teleport to anywhere on the field and eats people with Steel Strength, because Vastness is a cool pet to have. So I think Helpful Wombat, the Space Void jellyfish here, I think this cute guy loves his little Vastness pet. They're a cute little team, so I'm going to keep sending them around doing their thing. Army landed here, it was fine. There was a little bit of PD, we killed it. And here there was a little bit of PD, we killed it. The only place... Oh, and here, dropping out of the sky, the Queen of Thunder, Sarah Hanson Young, who is geared with a Vine Shield, a Firebrand, Marble Armor, Ring of Regen, and a Girdle of Might, dropped into Mammoth Grove, cutting his capital off from the rest of his forces, and taking a couple of gems. In particular, 1 Death, 1 Water, 1 Nature, 1 Fire. Good province. This province also, Earth, Death, recruitable Jade Sorceresses. This province, Death. Our Death income is jumped dramatically as a result of these attacks. There was Death here as well. In this province, Barnaby Joyce, the Troll King, came in, serving as a raider. Normally I'd use Troll Kings as casters, but we just needed to take as many provinces as we could. So good old Burr. Not sure why. I thought I renamed him Barnaby Joyce. I'll have to check that. Did I have 2 Troll Kings in play? No, he is Barnaby Joyce. Good. Okay, good. I was worried about that. Anyway, Barnaby Joyce took the Woodlands, and that has a Ruins of the Old Empire, so some death gems there. And then there was a battle on the throne in Iprisia. Not a huge one, but something. So this was part of the force that retreated from Nabar last turn, coupled with a small remnant of the force that was around to ward me off. The first thing you'll notice is that like half of the Daibakemono at the back are Mind Blasted, and thus not doing much, because this is a very expensive ball of Illithids. Meanwhile, the Meteorite Guard are up to Protection 24. They've had their Mass Protection cast. The Earth Kings have almost finished their respective buff scripts and have now begun to advance. Now, he casts a bunch of fire elementals, but instead of hitting my troops, they hit my Earth King. And my Earth King is fire resistant 10, protection 30. So those fire elementals are going to accomplish jack and shit in equal measure. So the fire elementals all get beaten down because we have magic weapons. The other Earth Elemental, meanwhile, has gotten to the back here. All those little flashing Daibakemono are the ones that are not attacking him because of ore. But you can see that even then, and even with his defense at 3, they're not really accomplishing much because he has a protection of 33, he's ethereal, and he's just killing one dude a turn with his Flesh Eater. His 16 attack skill and does like 40-something damage, so he cuts his way through, and life is good. So in that battle, unfortunately, I did misjudge my communion, and I burned out... Actually, no, I didn't burn out a Slave Mage. I got a Slave Mage shot by an arrow, that's right. I went and watched that battle before. So, yeah, one Slave Mage got shot by an arrow, which is very disappointing, very sad. But, you know, it happens. We lost a couple of Illithids. Again, this is mostly to arrow fire. 24 Lobos, 16 Meteorite Guards. Because we had Life After Death up, most of those guys reanimated as different things. Unfortunately, the Slave Mage himself didn't, I don't think, reanimate as an actual... I'll just check that. Yeah, no, the Slave Mage didn't animate as a dead person, so that's unfortunate. But we killed a Bakemono Sorcerer, 34 Bakemono Show, 56 Daibakemono, some other crap, and his province defense, and seized back the throne that was always going to be rightfully ours. So it'll be a while before we can get anything here to claim it, but we'll bring in some extra commanders. We will fort this and defend it, but I don't think at the moment that Satis or Roma are going to fight me over it when their war has just started, and we'll talk about that in a minute. So I'd say our initial attack was a great success. We didn't inflict much in the way of army loss. We killed a small army here, but his reserves are probably mixed around the place. The ones that didn't die in Nabar anyway. We can see some here. We know he has a fort down here. I think there's another fort in here somewhere. There's a big force here, although that looks like mostly wolves. I'm more worried about his mage core anyway, to be perfectly honest. He probably wasn't spamming troops so much as spamming mages, and that's the right choice when you're at turn 50. He's still got a siege on Nabar, actually. I wouldn't have committed to that. I wouldn't have committed to maintaining a siege in Nabar, especially since I believe he must still have commanders there of some kind. And if not, I'd be even more surprised. But it's hypothetically possible. I would have consolidated all these troops either back onto Nabar if I thought I could win, or more likely withdrawn, I think. But this was an aggressive play that just didn't pay itself off in the end. So, having established control of all this territory, we now get to pick where we're going to strike next, knowing that he's going to have to try and reclaim some of his territory to remain viable. And what we're going to do is we're going to trade a little bit of space for time. We're going to consolidate a whole bunch of armies. I did some tart renaming, by the way. So this is now Corey Bernardi. Peter Dutton is, in fact, this guy who just spawned and is great and has air magic, water magic, and death magic. I thought this was a better match for Dutto. So Dutto's there, and Corey Bernardi's coming in with a Frostbland and some regen and whatever. Pretty minimal gearing, but he's got a couple of gems too. There's some things he can do. He'll come in and join the big-ass siege of Shinuyama, which is going to be large blocks of infantry, some siege strength, a King of Elemental Fire, Pauline Hanson, the Queen of Elemental Air, and Corey Bernardi, the Tartarian. This is supported by, we'll have anti-magic, we'll have Will of the Fates, we'll have mass protection, and a whole bunch of other stuff, because I will keep improving my scripts as I unlock magic. Over here, we'll consolidate on Okajab 158, bust that. Over here, we'll again swap all of our forces and bring Sarah Hanson Young, the Air Queen, into Vanarus. She'll be joined with, she'll be met by a resupply of air gems just to top her up a little bit, because the idea here is in each of these three cases, in each of the three forts that we're going to be taking first, so Okajab, Shinuyama, and Vanarus, we'll have one Air Queen present. Because the Air Queen, as we see when we do our first storming, is critical to my plan for storming forts without incurring much threat. One of the ways I'm going to counter all of his defensive measures is I'm just going to make my troops fly, so they can jump up, attack rear, and murder everyone. Because when people think of heavily armoured deep ones, they don't think, oh, that thing can fly. So the Air Queens are going to be really important. Jackie Lambie, Pauline Hanson, and Sarah Hanson-Young are all going to be really important, not just because they've got sort of off super combatant functions, but because they're going to be able to cast mass flight and get our armies over those walls. Meanwhile, most of the army on the throne is actually going to move off. We're going to split the Earth Kings. One's going to come here in case he tries to counter-raid it. We'll kill whatever goes there. And the other one is going to go with the army down here to 115 and try and seal off Nabar and threaten his fortress here and here. Remembering we can ford this river freely, he can't. We're not going to do much in this central area here because, to be honest, I want to neutralize these 3 forts before I move on. There's always 2 wars going on when you're fighting someone else's dominions, or at least this is usually the case. There's the raiding war where you're fighting for territory, and that controls who has the initiative, who's winning the attrition, etc. And then there's the actual can I take forts part of the conflict, because only by taking a fort do you truly move the front line forward, because at that point that's a place you can do gem reloads, you can do recruitment, it's a place they can't do recruitment, it's a place they can't hide, it's a place you can fall back to if you need to. So I would like to take these, and then at that point, essentially, this is all relay, and I'm fighting a much smaller Shinuyama, whereas right now, I'm fighting in Shinuyama, I'm just raiding provinces. Forts need to be taken. To soften them up, I've got some assassins here, I've got an assassin there, I don't have any assassins on Vanarus, but I'm firing off a bunch of mind hunts all over the place, just to make things interesting. And I'm generally in a very good place. One interesting thing that happened is I took this magic site, which reveals mundane score graphs, which lets me check all those graphs. So that's my war with Shinuyama. However, I don't think that was the most dramatic thing that happened this turn. The most dramatic thing that happened this turn is that Ermor went to war with Satis, or at least continued their war with Satis. I'm not sure whether it started this turn or last turn. Satis, Ermor, if you're watching, please let me know. Did you start your war this turn or last turn? I'm pretty sure it's this turn. And Ermor opened with a large-scale offensive into Kalem. We can see he's occupying forts. We can see that he's taken some provinces. All good. However, going into this, the state of play I thought was that Ermor, realistically, was probably going to roll over Satis. He had the numbers, he's got gems, he's got territory, etc. So if you look at this going into this, this is the offensive that happened this turn. So Ermor's offensive has just kicked the, and you can see Shinuyama there. Sorry, Shinuyama. So I've kicked Shinuyama's income pretty bad, and Satis's income has also been from following pretty closely behind mine. So you can see Satis was richer than me for most of the early game. I overtook them and had a narrow lead through the early and mid-game. In the late mid-game, I sort of established a gap, but he closed that pretty dramatically when this is his offensive into Ind. He basically catches me, and then Ermor has just tanked it again. You can see also there's been a territory exchange. This is me seizing land from Shinuyama. This is Satis losing land to Ermor in their initial offensive. Meanwhile, ones where I won't have people's income, this is my gem income from moving into Shinuyama. And this is my dominion, which is now peaking because other people's dominion is disappearing and I'm building temples. However, Satis had a plan. I don't know if this is always the plan, but it's one of the most dramatic uses of this spell I have ever seen. So, Ermor has deliberately not pushed their dominion right up to the border, at least not hard. A lot of the provinces do have Satisian dominion, and Ermor did this, I presume, one, because they might not have had money for temples, and two, because they wanted to keep population and thus keep gold, which meant that their armies are now in very deep Satisian dominion. The Grand Master, the God of Satis, the God of Order, Feeder of Impurity, the Loyal Master has cast a global enchantment. That global enchantment is Purgatory. All hostile undead beings have Dominion Candle by 10% chance of being hit by 18 AP fire damage. And a lot of Satis's provinces, and the provinces that Ermor staged their thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of undead in, were mostly the high candle provinces. And Ermor's chaff will all be killed by a Purgatory hit. Ermor's Sacred Cavalry will be killed by a Purgatory hit. Ermor's Long Dead Horsemen, again, can be killed by a Purgatory hit. And in that higher candle concentration, the casualties were spectacular. Before this war started, Ermor had about 4 times, at least 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2. Yeah, just a bit less than 4 times as many things in their armies as either me or Satis. Satis's army is scary, by the way, considering that I've got a bunch of Lobo Guard floating around, but that's neither here nor there. We knew his army was going to be scary. Ermor lost more troops to Purgatory this turn than I have. If you work by my usual scaling, which is that one size 2 unit in Dominions usually equals about 100 individuals, Ermor may well have lost 500,000 undead this turn over the course of a month, as fire rained down from the heavens to evict them from the lands of Satis. And that's why I'm saying this is one of the most dramatic uses of a global I've ever seen. So Ermor is now in a really tough position. They clearly had the advantage going into this. Satis's armies were out of position and are just inherently more limited than what Ermor was able to pull together. But as far as I can tell, Ermor's vanguard sacreds have been annihilated. Much of the Ermorian army has been deleted. And he's going to have to run now. Ermor's going to have to run back into his Dominion and start templing up, and they can fight a Dominion fight, wherein I'm not sure if Satis will be able to beat Ermor in Ermor's territory, but Ermor won't be able to beat Satis in Satis's territory, not without some serious creativity. I mean, he's basically limited to thugging at this point, because his troops can't go, his giant pools of chaff can't go. Will this chaff regenerate? Yeah, this chaff will. You can see he's putting on troops nice and fast. But it'll take a couple of turns, and it'll depend on how quickly he can get his Dominion spread. Because he's going to have to kill these provinces now. He's going to have to spread Dominion, kill them, and get undead production happening. Because you can't take losses like this. Not every turn. Not even as Ermor. Now, he won't, because that will have been the death of almost everyone in Satis's Dominion. And if he just pulls back now, he'll start to regenerate. But Satis has bought themselves some serious time. For me, this is an excellent outcome. Ermor was the more threatening combatant, and Ermor's just been kicked in the teeth. But they've been kicked in the teeth in a way that doesn't immediately enable Satis to go on the offensive, right? Because what's left of Ermor is still probably scary, and Purgatory doesn't help you once you pass your Dominion boundary. Still, really dramatic. And with Satis being so large, there's a real chance here. I now have a significant income advantage over Satis, but if Satis now reclaims the land that Ermor took from them, they might recover and be only a little bit behind me. You can see, if I hadn't have invaded GC this turn and gone up to here, is that my invasion of GC? Can't be my invasion of GC. This is just when Well of Misery triggered. Yeah, this is, I presume that and a few other things. Satis has the sort of geography they need in order to keep up with me. So this means 2 things. One, I mean to watch this war like an absolute hawk to see whether or not this means Ermor can maintain pressure on Satis without crumping them the way I thought they originally would, or whether this gives Satis a decisive advantage and allows them to advance, neither of which is necessarily good for me. Meanwhile, we'll push ahead with research. Enchantment 8 will finish this turn and will be partway towards Enchantment 9, and we'll continue our war. But look, bravo, Satis. The one thing I'll say is this. If I was Satis, I might actually have waited a turn. I might have waited, even though it would have been losing more territory, I might have waited for Ermor to push their troops 1 province further in. Because what will have happened now is Ermor can probably move back behind their start line in 1 move. If I had let Ermor advance 1 more turn, it would also be 2 turns out. Which would mean instead of 1 turn under Purgatory, they'd be facing 2, because you don't get affected the turn you complete your move out. That would have ensured a complete wipe of pretty much everything that's vulnerable to purgatory that came into their territory. Anyway, I hope this serves as an advertisement for that. I hope it doesn't take away from the drama of our invasion of Shinuyama. But yeah, well played, Satis. And with these big armies now marching north, armies that we now know outnumber our own, which is worrying, given our army is of mixed quality. Like, sure, we have lots and lots of Meteorite Guard, but we also have lots of Lobo Guard and free spawn hybrids floating around, whereas I haven't seen any shitty Satis units. I've seen Falchineers, Sobex, City Guards, and Elite Warriors, none of whom are pushovers. There are also some long dead horsemen on his throne, but I guess that's because he wants to put something together that can defend it, despite the fact that the province is probably dead and incapable of supplying anything. RIP. I'll come back in turn 51 when we've put ourselves on Vanarus and Shinuyama. Hopefully, we'll see who we get on our new Tartarian. We're rolling the dice every turn to see what we get. It's always interesting. I'm just trying to keep up with their gear forging while also saving gems for Nexus and Gift of Nature's Bounty. But yeah, we'll be back in turn 51 and we'll see how it goes. Alright, it's turn 51 and GC's found a way to strike back. And it's quite smart. What he's done is he's using Earth Attack. Earth Attack is a remote assassination spell, costs 5 Earth Gems, it's quite high tech, requires large paths, and it's expensive. But it sends a size 6 Earth Elemental to go kill someone. Now, oftentimes, 5 gems is pretty expensive as a way to chew through an army full of mages. But he uses it a couple of times, and in a very specific way. In particular, he uses it where his PD revealed to him last turn that I only had one commander leading a force. And what that meant was this 78 unit army and this 60 unit army didn't actually end up moving because their commanders were killed. So that's definitely a good use case for Earth Attack. Strongly endorse that. We keep throwing Mind Hunts, and we killed a couple of Shinuyama mages. Mind Hunt's cheaper, so I'm happier to throw it. We finished Enchantment 8, and then anything else I want to talk about before I go through the battles? Oh no, just to say that good old Peter Dutton teleported into this province and had his way with the PD. Sending fully geared Tartarians to fight province defense is not an efficient use of fully geared Tartarians. Peter Dutton here can handle a lot more than PD, but right now I just need anything that can take provinces, and then he'll move into consolidate and counter armies later on. So he comes in, he casts Invulnerability, he casts Soul Vertex, casts Mirror Image, and Mistform, and that's his buff script right as the enemy attacks. So at this point he has Soul Vortex, 20 regeneration, he's got Protection 29 against Mundane, he's got good stats, like, game on. And he kills the PD. He takes a little bit of damage, he immediately regenerates it, and then he chases them off the field. Not bad at all. So yeah, I'm fond of Peter Dutton as a Tartarian, he's doing well. Then there was a series of battles. There wasn't resistance in most places. What did we have? Oh yeah, we launched 2 assassinations first, and we took out a Bakemono Sorcerer and an Uber before we moved on. So that, nice kills. So because Bakemono Sorcerers are no joke. Bakemono Sorcerers are, and this guy. Oh no. Oh no. I didn't notice this before. So this one had been boosted to Fire 5 using a Flame Helmet and a Flaming Skull. Oh no. That's 35 gems, and I presume someone who's meant to be important because he's boosted to Fire 5. Okay. Anyway, before he can cast Iron Skin, which was his plan, and a pretty decent plan under most circumstances, he got paralyzed and then punched in the face by a water elemental, and then the water elemental was in close combat, so he decided to hit it with the staff, which did nothing, so he got beaten to death by a water elemental. Nom. I didn't notice that. Oof. And then there was a battle in like actually to resist. I don't know if his commander was meant to have been part of this force. It's possible. He didn't have any gems though, which makes me think it wasn't the case. Anyway, this looks like an Uber with a couple of nature gems. So this looks like it served the purpose of baiting out my gems. And what's he cast? Foul Vapors. This is a Foul Vapors trap. Cool, cool. However, we've got Serpent's Blessing up. So the real consequence here is that we will... you can see my Fire King was dropping evocations there, and the Flying Meteorite Guard drop back and murder everything. Great. So he triggers all of our gem use, but Foul Vapor's trap doesn't work because poison resistant. So we had prepared for the fact that he might do that, and we then kill everything. Unfortunate for him. Fortunate for us though, because the Foul Vapor's casters was one of the last things to die. Wait, did he cast Foul Vapors or did we cast Foul Vapors? Because I thought I had scripted Foul Vapors. So he cast Foul Vapors and so do I. Interesting. Yeah, because I had planned to poison his units not knowing that he was also going to try and poison my units. So I had Serpent's Blessing up anyway. So that's a nice little victory. We lost a Slave Mage. That seems to be the done thing. And 5 Guardsmen. But we killed an Uber. Couple of guys, killed a couple of the giant centipedes, which are great, but more importantly, we're on the fort and we have breached it, which means this turn we can storm the fort. We can storm it with Pauline Hanson providing the mass flight support, the fire magic support from good old Ruax here, who will be doing Fire Fend, Heat from Hell, and then lots of evocations, just in case we need an evocation play. So for example, if he has lots of Skelly spam behind the wall that I haven't counted on, eventually we can make them fatigue out using that Heat from Hell sort of combo. We've also got Nature Magic present in a big way. I think that's being cast up here. And then we have just generally like tough, scary things. So things like Corey Bernardi here will be scary because he'll get hit by the mass flight. By that point, he'll be iron-skinned, tempered flesh. Probably doesn't need Iron Will because I'm casting anti-magic, so I'll get rid of that. Soul Vortex, and then he'll attack rear. Awesome. Other battles. We took this province, he didn't resist. We took this province, he didn't resist. So that pushes that front line just that little bit further. This province was really valuable, so I'm glad we took it, and now we can clean up Trizia. On Vandarus itself, there was again a little bit of resistance. Ubers serving again, I believe, as a gem/poison trap. Let's check what their scheme was here. Yep, again, we've got nature gems on the Ubers. Yeah, okay. Poison warding themselves and casting Foul Vapors. Problem is, you then get immediately jumped by flying trolls. Nice. So these guys got sailed in using our random event captain. They got sailed in from across the ocean. Now in this case, everything we lost, the mage reanimated as the Soulless, so he's still alive and fine. And most of the troops that we lost also reanimated as undead. They're just not as useful. I mostly cast this to get mages back because they retain their paths, which is, you know, handy. I think he retreated though. Yeah, there he is. Good on him. But yeah, the trolls actually, I believe, sailed from 138 here. So I think we transferred them down to 138. And then we were able to sail them across to join the siege. That adds critical siege strength to this force because war trolls give 5.3. I think these guys give the same. No, 4.8. There you are. So a lot of our siege strength is in the trolls. We won't break the walls here just yet. We just don't have enough stuff. But we'll bring more stuff, and that will let us take the fort. Here, Okajab. Not as many forces arrived as we expected, but we killed an Uber before we arrived, and we still had enough that came in to kill the force that was able to resist. I think what happened here is the Uber that we assassinated was the one that was meant to do the Foul Vapors trap. Oh no, it was just a researcher. In that case, he must have thought most of my troops wouldn't arrive. Oh well, we just killed a researcher, so that's fine. Interesting that we got to keep the Lightless Lantern, whereas here, I don't think we got to keep anything. No. Unfortunately, I would have liked the Flaming Skull in particular. Not the Flaming Skull, the Flame Helmet. And then we moved to Undras and we killed what was there. It didn't seem like there were any commanders, so the troops there were stuck and couldn't move. We found out that there's basically no Shinuyama forces left because they've withdrawn down here to Terrace Peaks, which leaves us in a position to continue to advance, essentially. I mean, he only raided this province back with wolves and some Ubers. So what we're going to do... okay, so is there anything hitting 146? No, I must have decided not to do it that way. We're going to storm Shinuyama. We're getting a commander to come in from offshore here to pick up these troops, and we're also going to bring in additional ones, I believe. The Water Queen will be on standby. She's capable of going on land now. We checked that. She's going to move to this position and then into Shinuyama once she's ready. I just don't want her sniped on land before she's got full gear. We're going to return this advance into place. What we're doing is we're recruiting barbarian chiefs and other things in these provinces to try and build up. You can see I'm recruiting a commander there. Try and make up for the commanders that he's probably going to keep earth attacking, while we sort of sweep up this advance, continue to win the raiding war. But we're not going to try and push against these forces right now because we're not sure what's here, and this is a lot of mages. Instead, what we're going to do is focus on consolidating along this band here, until we seize Vanarus. Then we'll continue the advance in a big way. I'm happy with how the north is going. East is going okay, just needs a little more oomph to get it going. But the fact we're only on turn 2 of the war and we're storming the capital, I feel like I'm being a bit tone deaf if I complain, right? We also told Marignon what we're doing and said, come on in, mate, come take what you can, give nothing back, which is good. The other big grand war of our time. It's clear that Ermor wasn't keen to just pull out of Satis. In fact, Ermor on net took provinces from Satis this turn. Satis's income recovered slightly, but the number of provinces that they held decreased again. Ermor's lost some army, and Satis lost some army, which convinces me that they fought a battle this turn. Because remember, Satis naturally has been building up at quite a rate, and Ermor naturally would be animating quite a large number of undead for free. So the fact they both lost troops indicates that there was a battle. Let's see if there are any battles in the record. Well, this looks like an absolute flogging. Okay, what happened here? Oh, this is mostly junk. Okay, so I think what happened there is the first banishments landed before the blessing came down. But oh my god. The amount of banish in this army is insane. I guess it makes sense. Satis has brought together a lot of Holy Threes. Normally you wouldn't recruit many Holy Threes, but I guess he's been aware that Ermor might be a threat for some time. So what's he cast? Ravenous Swarm. So Ravenous Swarm does relatively slowly armor negating holy damage to undead targets on the field over time. Relief is keeping his army, well, relieved, predicting some sort of fatigue play from Ermor. But the real kicker here is the big banishers, and with magic resistance 17, they're going to resist the blood vengeance most of the time, because these lictors are deadly. You can see some blood vengeance going off, but the high magic resistance of these lizard kings, MR 21. So he's cast anti-magic, so base 18, -1 for being in magic scales, +4, MR 21. That's like high thug, low super combatant MR right there. That's going to defend them from the blood vengeance most of the time. And because he's got so much banishment, this rigor mortis and heat from hell and grip of winter, so this is big fatigue play from Ermor. And I'm pretty sure if we check, so some mages are fatigued out, some aren't. The ones that are in a communion are the ones that aren't fatigued out. The infantry are only fatigue 23. So this would need to go on for some time for everything in Satis to fatigue out. So now, by the time the battle is nearing its end, the Satisian infantry are still pretty fine. We're looking at relatively low fatigue levels. Lizard Kings are only at 36 fatigue. 21. Yeah, this fatigue play... So fatigue... Rigor Mortis is a brutal spell. And combining it with Grip of Winter / Heat from Hell is also brutal. But with Relief up, you buy yourself a lot of time. And Ermor didn't have much time to begin with, because holy Banishment Battery Batman. 16 Lizard Kings. 16 slow to recruit Holy Threes. Wow. 14 Marshmasters, 18 Shamans. The Hero Sobek Sorcerer, a White Mage, and like 340 troops or whatever. This is the most incredible concentration of mages. I've seen like 100 mages on the field before, but this isn't 100 just of the Shamans. These are Marshmasters. These are Lizard Kings. The Lizard Kings, by the way, take much longer to recruit, twice as long to recruit, and are more expensive than the Marshmasters, who are the really good mages. So he has dedicated himself to this strategy in order to get lots of Lizard Kings together. And I think it paid off. They killed 224 of Ermor's 491 losses. And this doesn't count all the passive losses to things like Ravenous Swarm and whatever. What did Ermor lose? One adept, so one of their fire adepts from their throne. 2 of their very expensive Dusk Elder mages. 45 ghouls. Oof. 75 sacreds. Total loss. Undead, total loss. Oof. Whereas Satis lost 2 Marshmasters and 2 Lizard. Actually, you know, the mage losses are a little closer. I still think 2 Dusk Elders are worth more than 2 Marshmasters and 2 Lizard Kings. But this is a defeat. It's a defeat because this Death Ball is still functional as a Death Ball, and this army is not. If Ermor wanted to make this work, they needed a lot more stuff. So they needed like 3,000, 4,000 units to eat the banishment and buy the Sacred's time to get into contact. Or they needed a heck of a lot more magic support. Oof. And then Ermor looks like they're raiding with spectators. So what's he got here? It's got armor, boots of the messenger, girdle of might, helmet, a couple of death gems. Let's see what it actually is doing. Invulnerability, soul vortex, okay. Skeletal body, and then horde of skeletons. So what this is saying to me is if the horde of skeletons then fail, the re-inv keeps him going. If the horde of skeletons fails, then they'll get into close combat with him, try and stab him, and the soul vortex and the invulnerability will keep him alive. Because remember, spectators are ethereal bastards. Cool. Alright, how much protection's he got against mundane in that form? Sorry, I need to stop. 31 prot v mundane. That's actually not bad. The defense isn't great, but that's defense without a shield. It's true defense. 25 hit points assault. Yeah, cool. All right, that's a thug. It's a functional thug. Also, Barnaby Joyce is now a hero. Hero of the Soviet Union. I mean, hero of Australia. Increased magic resistance. Well, that's handy. Great. So this war is now clearly in an interesting place. Ermor is managing to maintain sort of the territorial initiative, presumably why he gets his economy back in order. He's clearly using things like thugs that can survive the Dominion, Duskelt, so these are thugs that can survive Dominion, that's a mummy that can survive the Dominion, spectator, raiders, things like that. I presume that's what this is here. So he's using the things he can use to raid. But this Death Ball just annihilated him, and I'm not sure if this Death Ball down here has anywhere near the same. What's this got? Yeah, okay, so here he lost a thug because it slammed into an army. This you can see this army only has 1 Lizard King and 3 Marshmasters, so this is a much less threat. You see the numbers and you're like, okay, these armies are about the same size, in fact. 363 versus 400. But this one's got many, many times the anti-undead firepower. It has a big communion battery. It has lots of skelly spam capability and big nature spells. It's got specialist support from the Crystal Mage, and it's got a banishment battery of 16 Holy Threes. Jesus. Okay, so it'll be interesting to see what Ermor does with this big blob. Also remember, here's the thing about Satis fighting Ermor. Satis uses Marsh Masters and Shamans. Marsh Masters and Shamans are nature mages, which means they have supply bonuses. So this is 280 supply. This is 180 supply. So that's 380. That's 460 supply. This army would have very low to zero supply consumption. A little more because the Sobex eat more, because they're size 3s, but not much more. In fact, I think this army can probably feed itself in Ermor, which is something that most nations can't do. So if he wants to take this Death Ball and go on a counter-offensive and drive right into the heart of Ermor, he can. I'm not sure how many of these death stacks he has, but based on the fact his army is about my size, he needs to have at least 1 or 2. We can see 2 right now, and there's the basis of 1 here. I assume there's a force over here. So let's call it 4 main armies. However, I'm not sure how many of them can have this sort of magical concentration. I would struggle to do this sort of magical concentration, and it's impossible for me to do this sort of Holy 3 battery. I could summon shitloads of Bishop Fish, is the closest I could get, but that's nowhere near as efficient as what he's managed to do here. So respect to Satis, first for the Purgatory Trap, and then for figuring out what works so far as Death Balls go against Ermor. The self-sustaining Holy 3 artillery battery seems to be the go. We'll come back in turn 52 and see how it goes. Okay, turn 52, we're 3 turns into the war with Shinuyama, and I'm pretty sure that we're going to win this bloody thing. And we're going to win it hard, and we're going to win it without particularly large losses. The big thing this turn is that we stormed Shinuyama. He threw a lot of remote assassinations at us in defense, and then he sallied out to meet us. He did so using 1 Uber again to gem bait us, but I had brought, and there's no way you can avoid this, right? You can't avoid this other than to script things further down. Fortunately, my mages were smart enough not to trigger, so we didn't waste our gems, but I had enough gems in case that gem bait worked. Then we stormed, and this was a test of my fort storming strategy, essentially. So what we have on the defense is a small research park, an Onishugo. This is the first Onishugo I've seen. A couple of, it's not much. Other than some researchers, it's clear that he's evacuated. And you can evacuate Ubers, right? You can get them out. I think if you change form, they may even be stealthy. So he's clearly evacuated most of his mages at this point. But that's okay. The capital is still a prize in and of itself. You see, we lose a mage to an arrow, but, that's okay. Now, have we got mass protection up yet? I want to get it up before another arrow volley. Anyway, we mass flight. And with mass flight, we drop at the back and start killing mages. This is what I wanted. The gate in any siege battle so usually becomes a killing field. I don't even mind that I'm wasting gems on extra spells here, right? Let me just check if the Ghost Cat form is sacred. Interesting. Not sacred, it's stealthy. I just don't know if they can do it voluntarily. I don't know my Shinuyama well enough. I might look into them after this, because my rule is I never do a nation guide on a nation I haven't either played or played against. Otherwise, you just don't know what you're talking about, right? So I need to understand what he did. But either way, my big observation is the danger with no matter what the size of your army is getting caught up in the gate. And if he throws elementals or chaff or something that's good at tanking into that gate, large forces can be turn-timed by smaller forces. Mass flight solves that problem. And you can see mass regen then keeps me going. Good old Corey Bernardi did come back here and do some killing, but he wasn't really needed. So Shinuyama is target neutralized. That's 308 gold and an extra 5 gems per turn. Nice. So we'll patrol that, get some PD down. We'll build a temple there. Life will be good. I don't have the 2H file for this turn, unfortunately. I do have it for next turn, but I just didn't save it for this one, unfortunately. So we did that. Otherwise, We took Tricia, so we backfilled this sort of salient that we've taken here. Okajab, we defeated Asali, so he came out with 4 Ubers. Let's check what the go was here. He's really liking this send small groups of mages out play. So let's check what the go is here. I'm not sure. I'm not sure. I'm not sure. The gamble may have been that I didn't have any commanders or that I didn't have enough there to hold him back, but I was bringing in more reinforcements from elsewhere, so maybe he didn't count on those forces arriving, I don't know. But in fact, we brought in a lot of reinforcements and basically killed those units. So that's now breached. We'll storm it and seize Okajab, which will secure this salient and allow us to advance here. We're sending out a anti-magic equipped Earth King in front, just to act as sort of like a screen for our army, so he can't leave like little foul vapory sort of traps to bait us. It's much easier just to send a super combatant out as a screen and bring the army up when you need to crack the fort. That's sort of the symbiotic relationship between independent SCs like the Earth King here and armies. So SCs can't crack forts and they can't take forts. Armies struggle against all sorts of traps that people can lay, so that works. So we pushed forward here. There was no problem, but we could have defeated a small army here. Terrace Peaks, there was an army, small one, Bakemono Sorcerer and some stuff. So 50 units, including 22 Dai Bakemono and some PD. Let's see what the plan was here. In particular, I need to find the Bakemono Sorcerer. Oh, I can't see. Am I blind? Oh, here he is. Oh, he's twice spawned. Okay, so he's a throwaway, and he's just doing undead spam. So there's a little bit of evocation and undead spam here, but there's not going to be enough. And things like the elephant just don't matter. But again, the mind blasting significantly decreasing the amount of incoming damage. His falling fires would do some damage, but the protection on these guys is just too high. Yeah, 19 protection. So falling fires isn't going to do a huge amount. Does he manage to flee? He's crippled, so his combat speed 2. So he will not flee. He will die. Now, you think, oh, twice spawn, that's okay. The question is, where did he twice spawn? Because if he twice spawned in Shinuyama, or one of the forts we've already taken, then he's dead. If he twice spawned here in 81, he's fine, and we'll see him next battle. Awkward. We did put Tenvir under siege just to lock it down with our other Earth King. We can now move in and try and break that. He's got this little defensive triangle formation here in the centre. 3 forts next to each other, including Neotha, which seems to have his biggest group of chaff. It also has things like griffins in it, a Tengu King. My bet is his Earthblood Deepwell is also here, so there's a big Earth Mage here. Yeah, this looks like it's going to be the tough nut to crack, not Vanarus or Shinuyama. Still, this is where his economy is, and I want to seize that. Meanwhile, this army in Shinuyama can do a quick gem reload. We'll get a thing up, and then we'll advance, and that will be the bulk of the force that takes Neotha at 124, I think, because this group will need a turn to assault before it can rejoin, so it won't reach there at the same time. We've now got this Barbarian King guy here, so the Meteorite Guards are obviously the higher priority, so we'll get them moving again, and we'll recruit another Barbarian. He can't go here, I'll have to go that way. Recruit another Barbarian here, and he'll lead the rest of them. So we'll get those guys moving again. Hopefully he doesn't keep spamming my remote assassins, but I'll overcome it. Like, if I'm sacrificing Barbarian Kings in a turn of time in exchange for his Earth Gems, like, I'll take it. Like, I'll take it any day of the week. Also, research. I've set this up so we're going to clear Enchantment 9 this turn. So we'll be casting Arcane Nexus next turn. I've decided who's going to do it. It's going to be this guy here, Astral 5. One of my valuable 5 Astral casters. He'll be able to wear a Crystal Coin, a Starshine Skullcap, and borrow the Ring of Wizardry, and that'll bring him up to 8, and he will be able to cast it. I don't think I got anything else. I sold some Death Gems, by the way. I decided to sell some Death Gems last turn, which is why my stock has gone down. at a very favourable rate, because I am now convinced that this has the potential to be a balanced conflict. And if Ermor can bounce back a little bit, that's okay. But without a way of busting through Purgatory, Ermor doesn't have a defeat Satis plan. I don't know if Satis has a defeat Ermor plan, but Ermor's going to struggle to win against Satis with Purgatory up. And when talking about this, I did gently note that there's a possibility, and I phrase this in sort of a helpful way. I'm like, there's a possibility that I could try and overcast his Purgatory with one of my own, and that'd bring it down, and you'd be able to keep invading him. The subtext there was not that I would actually ever do it. I'm not going to put Satis in the shit by removing their defensive mechanism against Ermor, but to highlight the fact that he should probably continue with this war, because the moment he cancels our nap and tries to back out of his war with Satis, which is the thing that GC is trying to convince me to back off, GC told me two things. He said that he has way more gem income than I think he does. I don't know how that's possible given how much of his land I hold. Mind you, he did tell me that before this turn when I took this extra land. The second thing he told me is Mr. Root will almost certainly stab me in the back, because that's how Mr. Root operates. I don't think so, because I've made clear that I can do Purgatory too. I can do it using Pyrofligos right here. He can easily cast Purgatory. So he may as well continue fighting Satis, because I'll just put up Purgatory if he tries and turns around, and then this will all be for nothing. So he may as well double down. And it looks like he's using things like Atimu, who's been renamed Annika Hansen, apparently, continuing to raid with spectators. He's got a big army here, which means he must have Dominion in his province, his Divine Mummy. So Ermor's got a significant presence here. This army, by the way, looks to be at least twice as large, possibly more, as the stack that we saw eliminated, so closer to the numbers he needs. But it's very clear that when he went in, he had like thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of troops, which is what he needs, and they could have rolled over even that banishment spam, but they all got purgatoried. And now this death ball is this is a different... No, this is the same death ball, just with the fewer Lizard Kings. They must have split some off, and it's been joined by a Lich. Great, so we got Immortals. Immortals from Satis. Here they are. Mainly Liches. I'm gonna tell Ermor that I see where they are. And if I find anything else nice about Ermor, I might tell Satis. Ideally, I don't want those Liches on the board in case I have to fight Satis later. Alright, I'll think about how to deal with that. Anyway, plan for this turn. We still haven't broken Shinuyama. Sorry, not Shinuyama, Vanarus. They're severely damaged. We'll probably break them next turn, if not the next one. So, that's all good. The only battles we saw was some PD raiding back and forth. Not PD. That's not a PD raid, but Ermor only had PD. It's just not a raid, it's an advance. And then we've already seen the battles we fought. Nabar sent out their Jin to clear off their fort, so Nabar has their capital back. Their empire consists only of their capital, but they have it back, which is good on them. We've got more troops and mages coming up to join the siege of Vanarus. We'll seize some more of this territory. We'll move our army down. We'll threaten Neother at 124, and next turn we'll cast Arcane Nexus. I will keep a very close eye on this conflict to see how it progresses. The final thing I'll note before the thing is over is that... we found some magic sites. That's not really important. Just trying to keep our gems going up. Score graphs. Ermor's army has started to recover. Satis's army had a much narrower recovery, which implies losses. He's not recruiting as many troops as before. Ermor lost maybe a province, maybe two. We gained more, obviously. Satis's income continues to recover. Our Dominion is advancing, and we saw but the army size is important. It's about how quickly can Ermor recover their strength. At this rate, they would recover their pre-war strength in in 3 turns. It'd take them 3 turns from now for them to get back to where they were before the Purgatory Trap. That is the recovery power of Ermor. If you start destroying Ermor stacks, you need to keep destroying Ermor stacks, or eventually they're just going to recover. And as his dominion starts to spread into former Calum and all this sort of territory here, as he fills that in, which I bet he will frantically be doing, that recovery rate will just improve. We got a new Tartarian, which is cool. We also got one in the queue. This one, I've decided I will do a Tartarian video. It won't just be tarts. What it'll be is on, I'm thinking of doing a series on just late game strategies. So my thesis being you need something you can do in a late game. You need a plan when you're picking a nation and a pretender. You need, what am I going to do if I make it to the late game? Because it requires a sort of entirely different stretch. So that might be my late game is blood, and I'm going to go astral corruption and summon a bunch of vampires and run everyone over. Or maybe it's I'm going to go immortal spam or whatever. I want to do conjuration as a late game strategy as a video, and that would mean things like fairy courts, elemental royalty, and Tartarians. I think looking at those collectively, individually and as a whole, is probably enough material for a video. So we have one of these Tartarians, which is the Snake Tarts. They don't have leg slots, but they do have 220 hit points. They're big, they can swim, they got fear, they got the usual Tartarian traits. You get a few more hit points, but you lose your leg slot. That's okay. So we'll put a Shroud on him. We'll recover that Feeble-Minded off him. And once your Feeble Mind is removed, you get a name, is the rule. This one here is the Tartarian Titans. This is the Titan Chassis. This has full slots, but fewer hit points. But I'll take full slots because it's also got good skills, good base magic resistance. I can live with the low HP. Probably going to have good traits. Also, this one isn't Feeble-Minded. Again, not afflicted. So we're doing really well with our Tartarians here. So we will absolutely 100% Gift of Reason. Where's my Gift of Reason? Oh, I took the Thistle Mace away. You can borrow that. Cool, whatever. I've already done all this, but I'm just making sure for demonstration. Bang, and that means the Tartarian Titan is up. I've got my gear factories running to make sure that I can keep up with one Tartarian per turn. Obviously, I'm running low on death gems, but I've got enough to keep going for now. So there we are. I'll be down to 4 death gems, but I'll make another tart. And I'll have one ready for combat next turn, and then we'll see when this one recovers. Because at the moment, the Tartarians are only being represented by Peter Dutton and Corey Bernardi. And Corey Bernardi is currently going insane. He's decided he wants to research. He's decided I may be a big, fat, tortured former god that hates the world and the former Pantocrator, and I want to inflict pain on it, and I can defeat entire armies by myself. But you know what I really want to do this month? Books. I want to read books. So Corey Bernardi is contributing to the Enchantment 9 research effort as much as I would rather him do almost anything else. So that's turn 52. I'll be back in 53. Alright, it's turn 53, and you may have noticed I have almost no gems. Also, hello, Ulud. This is the true power behind Early Age Relay. So this hero was the leader or the eldest or one of the eldest of the Aboleths in Early Age Relay. After the Falling Star crushed their empire and killed most of the Aboleths, they retreated. But the idea here is Ulud might be mind-controlling a large number of the Illithids. He might actually be pulling the strings behind it all and slowly bringing the Aboleths back to power. Hard to bring the Aboleths back to power quickly. You certainly can't do it within the timescale of Dominions, not in the middle or the late age, because it just takes so damn long to grow them. So even if he took over, it would take millennia for him to rebuild the Aboleth population, which is, I suppose, the downside of being an ancient underwater species. But he's very powerful, he's capable, he's here now. Unfortunately, I don't have the paths to make him a Amulet of the Fish, and without an Amulet of the Fish, he can't go on land, so he's probably going to spend the rest of his days here in the capital, despite the fact that he's quite cool, and there's lots of things he can do. Unfortunately, none of them are useful for us, so he's going to read books, just like Corey Bernardi. Astral 5 here is fully geared, fully equipped, and he's casting Arcane Nexus. We did alchemize gems, we did spend all of our astral, we alchemized a bunch of extra stuff, and we're going. So hopefully it will go up and it will have enough gems in it to stay up against what I expect will be strenuous resistance from our opponents once it goes up. We've now switched research. We're going to grab Evo 7, which will get us the battlefield wipes. So Firestorm, Murdering Winters, Shimmering Fields, Wind of Death, all this is good. Can't really cast Wind of Death, but can cast Firestorm. And Firestorm, if what we then do is go, I'm actually considering going like this to get Army of Gold Firestorm, which is a combination I absolutely swear by. It's great. Let's go through the wars. But yeah, Arcane Nexus, very exciting. We assassinated Uber, and then we sent in Titan to take over this. Now, GC has done what GC has been doing constantly, which is put a small number of Ubers out with a couple of gems in the hopes that he will gem bait any force that I send in, and the summoning of the undead and the swarms would be able to resist a small force. So if it was a big force, he would gem bait me. If it was a small force, he'd beat me with swarm. Unfortunately, against a 29 protection Tartarian with fear and awe and soul vortex and 20% regeneration, he's already way above his normal maximum. Quickened self, mist formed, mirror imaged, firebrand. It's just not gonna happen, right? Because the soul vortex and the quickness, he's got combat speed like 26. So yeah, the Uber's Decide Discretion is indeed the better part of valor, as good old Peter Dutton chases them off the field. Nicely done, Peter. Good old Spud Dutton. We took Mammoth Grove, so our entire army advances. We lost one Slave Guardian, which is the weak slave troop, killing this group of chaff that came up to resist. Not sure what the plan here was. Maybe he didn't expect me to move here, or expected me to move here but not with an entire army. If he expected me to come in with a raider, or one of these small groups, or even part of the army that was on here, this would have done a good job. But as it was, this units, and we'll just quickly watch it. I don't expect it went very well. Oh, it's mostly wolves and griffins, right? It's mostly free spawn or gem summon crap. It's enough to trigger gem use, so it certainly accomplished that. But this is I feel bad about this. Like, yes, I spend my gems, but that's a lot of death in exchange for a couple of gems spent. Oof, okay. Meanwhile, here's Clive Palmer. So Clive Palmer is doing exactly what I said I thought he might do a few episodes ago. I've given him a Ring of Regen, so he regenerates 31 hit points, and he's just going around, he's raiding provinces, he's eating province defense. He's going to come down here, support Dutto a bit, while more troops come in to start cracking Dunster. We don't really have much at the moment. Team Friendship down here in Donemark took it. Marignon, we've told Marignon they can come in, and he's confirmed he wants this province and this province at minimum, and he's going to invade next turn. So that's just fine. So we're going to sit here and search for magic sites, actually, because there's no other targets that we need to hit. We have neutralized every Shinuyama province that we are not going to give to Marignon. Not bad, eh? Turn 4 of the war. We did assault the fortress of Okajab. Again, he came out with one hero and a couple of gems. GC is at least determined to make me spend gems in the course of this. Unfortunately, he dies so quickly that I don't end up using any of those gems from all the Mind Blasts. And then I storm the fort. And there's not much inside. I'm not even sure if this will trigger gem use. Oh, it did. In that case, it's going to be over real quick. As the mass flight meteorite guards ruthlessly murder everything in the interior of the fortress. What was in there? Oh, actually, I'm sorry, I stand corrected. I didn't see many units. I didn't see there were 6 Bakemono sorcerers and 6 Ubers. Oof. So there's 9 meteorite guard, 6 hybrids, and a Lobo guard. So, like 150 gold. These cost 390. Oof. Oof. Okay, so 6 Bakemono sorcerers and 6 Ubers. This is, like, at this point, Shinuyama's collapsing, right? So his research parks have been eliminated, his mage reserves have been taken out, a mixture of peace feel and some large decisive battles like that, and it doesn't seem like he's really able to do much, and I think what happened here is just not enough chaff for his mages to have time to do anything. Do his mages have gems? This one's boosted to high heaven, so Earth 5. Yeah, we've got a couple of Earth 5s here. Casting Marble Warriors to get this entire group of mages up to Protection 15. Although some of them are going further in Iron Skinning. Legions of Steel. Okay, so they put themselves up to protection 23. So is their plan to light thug? Yeah, their plan is to self-buff to light thug status, so, protection somewhere between 18 and 25, and then to cast spells. The problem is, a Meteorite Guardsman does 23 piercing. So even at 20 prot, that gets bumped down to 16. The gap between 16 and 23 is 7 damage. So each spear is on average on a hit going to do 7 damage. That'll kill anything pretty quickly, even if it had Soul Vortex. So that battle's over real fast. Yeah. So I'll say this: if someone pushes me and I plan to push back, at least I've done it effectively, right? GC was definitely sort of posturing, poking, see what we can get away with, and this has been quite an effective speedy demolition. However, I do feel like I'm on the clock. And the reason why is I'm actually starting to get more nervous about Satis. I've started building a palisade here last turn. I'm claiming this throne. I'm starting to think and look to my defences. Because these large Satisian armies are, 1, numerous, 2, he has immortals, and 3, they're coming near me, and he's shown his ability to death stack. We've seen another one appear over here. Elite warriors, shamans, serpents, and marshmasters. Shamans is the second most common unit in this army. That's probably a lot of shamans. And this is an Ermorian throne. This is one of my thrones. And this is one of my thrones. And this is an Ermorian throne. You can see what I'm getting at here. There's a danger. Satis could win with 1, 2, 3, 4. There's also the question of him attacking Marignyol. With Purgatory up, the chance of him being beaten by Ermor is limited. We can judge their war quickly. Yeah, see, Satis retook land from Ermor. Their income is recovering. Can't tell anything about their gem income. Their army size is improving, but then again, Ermor is recovering as well. So what must be happening, based on those numbers, is Ermor must be retreating. Ermor must have pulled back to within their dominion and be refusing battle. And all Ermor is doing now is letting their army track back. Because Ermor probably knows, the same way we know, that in another 2 turns or 3 turns, they'll probably be back where they started. And if Satis insists on bringing the fight into Ermor, there's a possibility that the zombies might be able to score a big win. And that's probably the way for Ermor to win this, to be honest. It's to let Satis come to him, confident in his death stack, while he plans a way to ambush and destroy one of those death balls. Because there is no way Satis is replacing 16 Lizard Kings and 40 Assorted Mages in a stack quickly. The troops, yeah, sure, a couple of turns, max. Especially once he saves on the upkeep. But the mages would be harder to replace. I also have to wonder the extent to which Satis is suffering from from upkeep issues. Because if you look at this, Satis has an army as large as mine, with an income that is maybe 30 to 40% lower. Oh, no, that's no more than 30% visually. So 30% less income. If I had 30% less income, I would be on, say, 5,000. I have an upkeep of 3,000. But my primary research mage is a slave, which halves upkeep, and Marshmasters are not. Now, he might be using Shamans as his main research mage. He probably is, but all of his Marshmasters are worth more than 2 slave mages in upkeep. His Lizard Kings are sacred, but they're expensive, and most of his troops, so these Sobex, and these Falchineers, and these City Guard, everything except for the Slave Warriors, have twice the upkeep of my Meteorite Guard. So I have to think he's upkeep constrained somewhere, unless he's pulling gold out of somewhere that I'm not aware of. My best guess is that he's probably income limited. Like, badly. His gem income is probably really good, but I think gold must be a problem for him, and taking Ermor's land, thankfully, isn't going to add a huge amount to that. Or at least it wouldn't if all this land here wasn't like former Kalian land that has not had dominion, Ermorian dominion on it over it either ever or at least for a very long time. So this may still continue to boost Satis's income. We don't want to see Satisian income climb to where we are, because that makes them scary. So I've got half my brain turned towards that. I'm going to be storming Ranarus this turn. The walls did break, so Sarah Hanson Young will lead her army over the walls. This fort here is not yet broken, but we want to take it so we can grab this lovely sage province. A few more reinforcements should crack it in good time. Unfortunately, it's a 500 integrity fort. This one's only a 250. So this army should crack this in one. We'll assault Neotha next turn, hopefully. Dunster will have to wait a little while. I estimate we need 3 turns. We'll need 4 turns to complete the conquest. Absolute conquest of Shinuyama. Will be substantively done in 3. So hopefully that's good enough, given the extent to which Satis has been able to ambush Ermor, reverse this war, and has now started putting pressure on him with these really quite powerful stacks. We'll see next turn where this goes, and what way this war is likely to track. For our part, we're just going to keep pumping out Tartarians. The one we got this turn was another one of the snake types. Again, feeble-minded, but that's okay. We'll give to reason it. We'll put a shroud on it and recover. Eventually, this one will recover. Haven't chosen a name for this one yet, but before she deploys, she's just searching this turn because she's waiting for a little bit of extra gear. But she's Death Nature, which is not bad. High-level Death, useful. The Death Nature, not as much, but, it's something. We'll take it. So we'll Gift of Reason this turn. We'll make another Tart. Keep pumping out these super combatants. Close out the war with GC, and then we have to develop a strategy to interact with the Ermorian Satisian War, given it's gone very differently from the way we originally expected. Mostly in that instead of Satis being completely rolled over, they flipped a trap on Ermor and then broke out an army that was custom built to destroy Ermorian stacks that weren't absolutely full of chaff. And of course the chaff wasn't there because of Purgatory. So, to Satis, well done. That's a classic how to hold off Ermor even once they've reached scary proportions. You can't do it forever because the Ermorian army is going to recover and the Purgatory trap only works once. And I doubt they've got the money to duplicate these stacks like ad infinitum, whereas Ermor, if they can hold their territory, will eventually scale out of control. But for the moment, it's different from I expected. So I'm just going to close out this war, and we'll judge where we go from there. But always with one nervous eye on the lizards. See you next time.